am Deidre Quinn, and welcome to Pending and Trending, a podcast that started in real estate and grew into so much more. Here, we talk about the power of building wealth, creating opportunities, and designing a life that lasts for generations. With expert guests and real conversations, my mission is simple: to help you elevate your journey and build the legacy you deserve. Welcome back to Pending and Trending. Today's conversation is an important one, especially for women navigating life's transitions, wealth, and purpose. I am honored to be joined by Debra L. Morrison, a financial and leadership coach with over 4 decades of experience as a certified financial planner and accredited estate planner. And she is a certified grief coach. Debra has dedicated her career to helping women build financial confidence, regain control of their money, and move forward with clarity, especially after loss or major life change. She's the founder of Women Navigating Finances and the We Can Do It Women movement. She's a TEDx speaker, best-selling author of My Husband Died, Now What?, and a compassionate guide for women who want to step into their next chapter with strength and intention. Today, we're talking about investing later in life, redefining safety and risk, and how financial independence can be a powerful form of self-trust and leadership at any age. This conversation is about money, but even more, it's about confidence, clarity, and reclaiming what is possible. Let's dive in. So, Debra, I'm so happy to be here with you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm delighted to be with you, Deidre.
Yeah, so today's conversation is such an important one, and there are so many hurdles around women and investing. And can you share with us what the biggest emotional and practical challenges are that women face?
I can indeed. And having practiced 42 years, I met a lot of women, typically mature women, because I dealt with pre-retirees typically, and the women have not been socialized around money. I have a whole TEDx talk on that, and that is really an impediment, especially as we age, because no one taught us the rules, if you will, and the lay of the land. It's don't worry your little head over that, Betty. Bob will handle it. And so as women age, we typically are less risk averse in every area of our life, and now we're talking about money, and we're at a time when we're living longer, and women have less confidence because we haven't been taught. So maybe we've ventured out on our own, we skinned our knee, it hurt badly, we come back to the sidelines. Boy, I want to get women back into the fray, back into the empowerment of money, what money can do for all of us, and we want it to be our friend working hard for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what are some practical first steps women can take at any age, whether they're in their 40s or whether they're in their 60s?
Perfect question, because some people don't know where to start. And I always like to assess the inventory, if you will. Like in the olden days, before we all had cell phones, we would call a restaurant maybe from a big brick of a cell phone, say, I'm lost, how do I get there? What's the first question they asked, Deidre?
Where are you?
Where are you? See, how will we know where we're wanting to go? And more importantly, how to navigate that path without knowing from whence we start. So when people get an idea and their arms around, women get their arms around their assets and their liabilities, it's very freeing. I know people like eschew that and like, oh, that looks too painful. And I have testimonials on video. After I did it, I found out I wasn't as poorly off as I feared. Exactly. So here's this feel the fear and do it anyway, as my dear late friend, Dr. Susan Jeffers said and wrote in a book, feel the fear and do it anyway. It's incumbent upon us to act and to push through that initial reticence, which of course has been hardened by a whole lot of socialization and a lot of years, and be courageous. Take our stand, Deidre, for ourselves. And that says owning what we know, figuring out what we own, putting some order to it, probably with some help, professional help, prioritizing, and now what are we hoping to do with our money? What's our dream and objective? Because a lot of those have been tamped out of us with the Great Recession, even before the pandemic. It's now a time for us to enliven those hopes, because with planning, we can achieve almost everything single one that clients came to me with.
Yeah, well, that's great. So what does financial independence really look like for modern women?
I like to use the word, my clients, and I had 34 of them, high net worth clients, they lived untethered lives, Deidre. That means that in their retirement, they actually lived. They talked with each other if they were partnered, and they figure out what they want to do. One of them wants to do a travel thing independent of the other. They want to do things together. They're often looking after family members and going to celebrations, and they are living, not, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. I can't afford that. And so when money becomes this stricture, we do not live like, it's really unfortunate because this is not a dress rehearsal. And so no matter how much money we have, or we fear we don't have, but mostly it's getting through that and getting into a space where you have the options. With some money, you can buy yourself more options. It's not going to buy you happiness. It buys you options. And that's powerful.
That really is powerful. Can you give us an example for our listeners of an example where a client turned something around later in life, or turned their financial situation around, perhaps with your assistance?
For sure. Dozens of them. Yes, exactly. One in particular, a woman lost her husband, and I have a whole video on this, went to bed a wife and woke up a widow, 47 years old, and was faced with the money management, and she had not participated in that prior. And so she went to her broker, who was actually a friend of hers, and he said, sell the beach house, trim back your lifestyle, and remarry as soon as you can. What?
Ouch.
Yeah. And so she met me, and we had a number of sessions and so forth and so on. And ultimately, I put her in touch. I was already past being in active practice, and I put her in touch with a practitioner, and we worked together. And she no longer has no desire to remarry. She's very happily partnered. She's not going to remarry. She did not trim her lifestyle. She travels the world, and she still has her beloved beach house. Why? Because she got educated around stocks. And now she is not concerned about the volatility, the short-term volatility in the day-to-day pricing of stocks, Deidre. She's focused on the historic return of stocks being exactly double that of bonds. Let's get serious. And so when you think, oh my gosh, I'll take a little bit of short-term volatility in exchange for that a robust earning capacity that, at least from a historical standpoint, is really very noticeable. So it's an important shift for us to imagine that we don't know what we don't know. And if you don't know that stocks return double than bonds over the last 80 plus years, then it's high time you do know, and I'm here to tell you. And if you're nervous about that, I will be here to coach you through that nervousness, because when we are faced with facts and given the facts, it often overweights and outweighs the previous held fear, because a lot of that fear is around unknowing, right? And once we know, so when someone hands us the recipe, right, we can follow a recipe. We just didn't know what the ingredients were we needed to buy so that we could mix them in the right proportions in the recipe to get the cake or the casserole. And so I make analogies all day long to bring women home to money, because I want us to be in relationship with our money. And Ruth was in relationship with her money once she understood that she no longer needed to fear the short-term volatility because of what the long-term returns were going to afford her, which was an untethered life. Yes, even as a widow.
And I'm sure she can't thank you enough for your coaching through that process.
She can't. Yes, exactly.
So you mentioned a couple of things in there. You're a certified grief counselor as well. So that goes hand in hand really with what you do. Can you elaborate on that, on how it goes hand in hand and how you're really able to help women in those specific scenarios?
Yes, I can. And I gave pro bono service to 7 widows, 1 widower, and a 12-year-old orphan after the 9/11 tragedy. And I had a lot of experience with a very large family around death. Up until then, I wasn't afraid of it. I could deal with death and the emotion and so forth and so on, and the chaos that ensues. And yet, when dealing with these people, it brought me to a whole deeper level. And I said, I got to know more. So I got certified as a grief coach. And then people ask me the same questions again and again. Good questions, right? What do I do? And I wrote the book, My Husband Died Now, What? A Widow's Guide to Grief Recovery and Smart Financial Decisions, Deidre. And this book is a compilation of half grief coach recovery tools and tips and half financial tripwires to avoid, and financial next steps to take. And I know it's hard to believe, but I put humor into this book, like chapter number 3, stupid ass things people say. Like, I just want a new widow to know she's going to hear some stupid ass things. And she needs to be prepared for that. So a 6-month no decision zone, I need a good listening to, unwinding emotions and money, organizing your finances. So that's the first half. And then the second half, part 2, after 6 months, is actually making the decisions, because there's a sense by which we want to ground ourselves and come back home to our new beginning. Nurturing my core essence, I release my partner, dusting off my courage, health benefits of socializing, back in the driver's seat, etc. And this is an excellent book that a lot of my friends say, when do I send this to a widow? As soon as you hear. Call Amazon and ship it next day delivery. And this is updated, and we also brought this to bestseller, but this was updated, and on this updated edition, I wrote a reflections journal, which is, I think, an amazing tool that gives widows, and of course it could be applied to widowers, the space in which to write. Because when we do cursive writing, Deidre, there's a lot of study around that tapping into facets of our brain that unleashes and unlocks and releases huge trauma. Really very valuable to do cursive writing. This is the reflections journal, and many people have said it's been very valuable. So I think that we all have this sense, I think, of this grief has cast a pall across, at least certainly the United States of America and certainly around the world, such that I would ask high net worth clients, what's our why? What are we doing? What's your goal and objective? And I like this. Sometimes I get a deer in a headlight stare, and I'm thinking to myself, wow. We got to take that cap off of those dreams and let them bubble up again, because this is life. And I want us to imagine what we would like to do, what would put a smile on our face, what would put a lift in our step, and a real lightness and sense of buoyancy in our hearts to benefit ourselves, our friends, our family, and all of society, and ultimately the world. And oftentimes it doesn't even cost that much money. So I want us to dust off our dreams, and that requires us getting rid of some of that which is otherwise weighing us down. So get rid of the shame, the embarrassment, shed the shame, I always say. Forgive ourselves, Deidre, and get back into our own agency for our own financial freedom, to use your word.
That is great information, and I'm so glad that you actually shared. While you were talking, I'm thinking, what a powerful gift, when crisis happens, you're thinking, what can you do for somebody? And what a powerful gift to give this powerful book to someone, this meaningful book during a difficult time like that, and how that can really be so helpful to somebody. So I really hope that our listeners really are in tune to that. And I love that you can get it on Amazon and get it shipped direct, because that makes it super easy.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so that's really great. Now, what would you say as far as what consistent actions should women take that can lead to long-term impact?
That's a great question, and it ends up being pretty simple. And that is, I always engage my clients to set up an automatic, systematic savings plan, investment plan, right out of your checkbook, every single week, paycheck, whatever it is applicable to you. But every single time, not what's left in your wallet at the end of the month, because there's generally not that much. Pay yourself first, right? Until we pay ourselves first, we will not have the discipline. It's not just about how beautifully that money compounds, yet it does beautifully compound. It is following an axiom that goes all through our society. You've never gotten on a plane and heard the captain come on with his recorder, her recorded voice. Ladies and gentlemen, should the plane lose oxygen, the oxygen mask will drop from the overhead compartments. You've never heard, so it doesn't say, men, put your own oxygen masks on first. Women, look around, put it on everyone next to you, put it on the seat in front of you, the people in the seat behind you. Stand up, look around the entire plane, and if you still have oxygen, put it on yourself. Absolutely not. And they put groups of zeros on safety protocol. So it's important for us to fill up our own cup first. It's important for us to save systematically. And the second that, in your electronic statement or paper statement, you get your first investment, and then there's a little dividend that grows on top of that. That's called compounding. And then you put in your second systematic investment, and you have your first month and that little dividend, and the second month and that little dividend, and pretty soon, that's the definition. That's the layperson's definition of compounding. And Einstein called compounding the eighth wonder of the world, and he's a pretty smart guy.
And that's so exciting when I hear you talk about that. And it's like when you actually see that statement, it's so empowering, isn't it? It's, oh my goodness, look, I'm really doing this.
Exactly.
It's
Now,
really
you know what,
nice.
Deidre, I just feel compelled. Instead of women looking at the end balance and getting all frothy about it, oh, I put in $10,000 and it's only $8,700. Nonsense. Let's talk about real estate. If I got a knock at my door and a realtor was outside, I open it up and the realtor says, Debra, your house is worth $437,693. And I'm thinking, where did they come from? That's interesting. And then I shut the door. And the next day, same knock on the door. The same realtor comes in and said, Debra, your house is worth $493,000, $467. And I'm like, okay. I'm not opening the door the third day. Why? Not because it's not interesting. It doesn't mean anything because I'm not selling. So I want us to focus on the units. This is going to be the mind shift that many of us need to take us away from focusing on yesterday it was $10 this year. Now it's $9.40 this year. Nonsense. Have you been happy with your kid or yourself every minute of every day of your entire life? Nope. So don't expect the stocks to be solid and still give you a return that's going to pay you forever. It doesn't work that way. And so once you put in your $100, let's say it's a $10 share, you got 10 units. Forget the dividend for a moment. The next month you put in $100, the same $100. And let's say the price dropped to $5. That's a 50% drop. How many units, Deidre, did you buy that second month? 20. You got 10 units from the first month, 20 units from the second month. That's a 2-month illustration, however drastic it is. But when the stock market drops, that's exactly when we are making unit hay with our systematic investment. As a matter of fact, when you're in a systematic investment program, like a 401k or 403b, you want the market to go straight down because you're buying more and more units. And then you're going to have the discernment when you need to withdraw monies. Which units would you draw? Would you sell your real estate now, your bonds, your stocks, your intellectual property, whatever? So if we change the focus to the number of units, now we're going to feel accomplished and we're going to stick with that systematic savings rather than opening it and looking at the end balance, because that's as meaningless as the end balance was last month. Don't get focused on the wrong syllable. It's going to make you much more unhappy and you won't be anywhere near as wealthy and have as many choices bought with this little thing called this tool called money.
Love your analogies through that. Love your analogies through that. Tell us what true financial safety means.
I believe that safety is a multifaceted concept that starts with managing our risks, right? People get all juiced up about, what stock should I buy? Should I buy NVIDIA or should I buy Tesla? That's the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Figure out if there's a need for life insurance, first of all. If you or your partner were to die yesterday and you have a financial impact to the unit, are you insured for it? And I would look at a couple, for example, and say, okay, if partner A died yesterday, you're making $100,000 a year. How many years do you want to buy to recover if partner A died yesterday? First of all, you say partner A died yesterday. Partner A didn't die yesterday. He's standing right there. So it takes the fright out of it. Yet, if partner A does die and the loss of $100,000, and she says to me, if it's a heterosexual couple, she says 3 years, and I say $300,000. You want to take care of the mortgage, $250,000 more, $550,000. You want to put away $50,000 for a young newborn to make her a business when she's 18? What do I have to $550,000, $600,000? Any questions? Buy term insurance. Same thing, other partner, what are you making? Or you're a caregiver for an elderly person or a kid. It distills, the essence of all that quality role of whole life and blah, blah, blah. That's later. protect our risks. So protect our risks in the stock market, which involves not investing all into one particular type. Because in any recipe, there's a whole lot of variance. There's baking powder, so it rises if you want rising bread. There's flour, etc. And so the aspect of safety is really needing to be crafted with making certain that all those groups of zeros risks are mitigated by passing them on to an insurance company. You ought to have umbrella liability insurance. Yes, you ought to. And not just pride yourself and pat yourself in the back and go on merrily with $1 million. Who's suing for $1 million anymore? No. And it doesn't cost 5 times as much to buy 5 million. It's not incremental 1 million times 5. It's not. It's a lot cheaper. So let's take care of the loss of life, which is the loss of income and use value in monetary terms. Let's take care of a very onerous mortgage that one surviving income can't withstand. And let's take care of the potential for lawsuits. And now we have now we can sleep a little easier. And now we can discern, how can we minimize our taxes? Because if we save $1 in taxes, just an investment in real estate will typically do for us, right? Then that's just as good as $1 saved in the market and earned in the market. And so I want us to have, I continue to say this, and I mean it with every fiber of my being, emphasis on the right syllable. But when your training is in nursing or teaching or IT or tech, STEM, you don't know what you don't know about money. And so you do need to tap into somebody that does, to give you these clues, to give you these cliff notes, to guide you along, give you bumpers so that it's not a bumpy road. And you will find it is nowhere near as frightening as you have feared.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought up the insurance from a life insurance standpoint. And I see it happen in real estate transactions all the time where people are not covered and they don't think about it, and something happens and then the situation goes from bad to worse. I'm really glad that you brought that up. And I think it is something that there really should be more awareness around.
Right
and
now.
I love that you addressed that in the conversation for our listeners.
Thank you.
And now I understand that you have We Can Do It Women, right? Is it wecandoitwomen.com? Is that how our listeners can find you?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. And so if our listeners want to can you tell us a little bit about that organization that you created?
Yes, I feel strongly that women, our 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, have so much to give to society and yet to ourselves. We're not done yet. And so I've formed the We Can Do It Women community, and I also have a Facebook group bearing that name, in a manner in which women gather together like-minded and say, come out of the shadows, come into the spotlight. What is it that you haven't done yet that you'd like to try your hand at? Let's all support you. And so it is that collaborative kind of energy, and we introduce each other and figure out what we're doing, and we say, I know that. I know a person that could maybe help you. And I interview a person every single week that has come through and busted through significant barriers. And so there's this reservoir of assets that women can come in and say, and realtors can come in and say, oh my gosh, that gal was down on her luck, and then she's #1 in New York City. I know that gal, actually. And you can find someone that's gone through probably almost whatever it is that you're going through, a significant health challenge, getting yourself in shape, etc. And that is a community whereby I am offering my services to say, listen, I can translate finances into English for you, because now it's approachable. And I want to change your set point in money from these small bills, and for the audio viewers, 1, 5, 10, 20, and 50, to these larger bills, hundreds, all of them, 10 of them. Yeah, I'm not worshiping them, not bowing down. It's a tool. And yet, if we're stuck and we're fear-based, and we're into these small bills, then we're going to really face a very much more bleak last eighth of our life, or whatever it would be, which is unnecessary. And that's the mission. My mission is to give women the confidence, up-level our confidence, and that happens a little bit of education, some humor thrown in so that you're not afraid anymore, because I'm not afraid of money, and I talk about it very, and some people say maybe disrespectful. I say, you got to be as smart as squirrels. In the Northeast, the squirrels run around with their jowls filled with nuts in August and September because they know that the snow is going to cover their food source. We've got to not put out more than is coming into our house. When I dissect it in and put it into chunks like that, people say, I get it. Oh, yeah. And when people go through and are in programs with me, and after a year say, I saved $8,000 in a year. I never thought I could do that. Hello. It's about setting our minds and our intentions. And with a little guidance around the sides, we can do it, women. Yes, we can.
We can do it, women. I love it. Do you have any final words you wanted to share with our listeners before we close out?
Yes, I'm going to give you realtors something to consider. And that is, in my practicing days, I was partnering with a lot of realtors. As a matter of fact, we had this kind of graying society because people moved into New Jersey for drug jobs, pharmaceutical capital of the world. And
Sure.
and I would work with realtors who are relocating people, and they would go through the formulas and they would figure out with the person there what kind of home they could afford, and they would bring me in and I'd say, and because the interest on this mortgage is tax deductible, and I would bring out my Hewlett Packard 12C, I'd say, and I back into the amount of their payment is going to be represented by interest and then their tax bracket. It upped the price. Realtors, it upped the price of the homes that the realtors were selling by 20% on average. So get an association with a fiduciary certified financial planner, or I'll come in as a coach because it's simple as math. That's how simple it is. And yet I can't expect the realtor to be delving into the tax code. But I did. And these realtors, they would call, my schedule would be booked. I'd never come to this appointment because I gave them a higher house. And of course, ultimately, it's not just about that commission and that money. It's about the person having maybe another bathroom or something else in their house that they have actually come to quite enjoy.
Sure, it's a difference in whether they have outdoor space or whether they have parking or whether they have that extra guest room for visitors. So that's excellent.
Yeah. So we can all work together, and financial planning is the confluence of the risk management, the budgeting, the cash flow, the tax minimization, the estate planning, the investments, the insurance, the whole gamut, right? Let's not just zero in on this stock versus that stock, because we're going to be cheating ourselves out of the full bouquet that is awaiting us if we simply delve into that unknown. And you want to do that with someone to hold your hand so that it's a comfortable and fun journey.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so very much, Debra. This was a very powerful conversation. You shared a lot of great information with us, and I'm sure our listeners are going to find a lot of value in this. So thank you so much for being on with us today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you kindly.
Debra, thank you so much for joining us today. Your wisdom, empathy, and straight talk approach of money and life are incredibly powerful and so needed. What really stands out from this conversation is that it's never too late to build wealth, redefine retirement, or step into financial confidence. With the right mindset, structure, and support, women can turn experience into strength and intention into independence. If today's episode resonated with you, I encourage you to connect with Debra and explore the We Can Do It Women movement, her community, her coaching work, and her best-selling book. It's an incredible resource for women navigating both financial and emotional transitions. And to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us. If you found value here, please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and be sure to subscribe to Pending and Trending for more conversations that empower you to build wealth, confidence, and a life on your terms. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep moving forward. Thanks for tuning in to Pending and Trending. Remember, generational wealth doesn't happen by accident, it happens by action. If you liked today's episode, share it with a friend, subscribe, and let's keep elevating your journey together.